Hello and welcome to my presentation on information systems designs. Using systems analysis and design, I'll be discussing the following things about how a comedy venue will book in a comedian for its venue. I'll be detailing this by using some of the systems that I have learned throughout this year and show you on how a venue. Here is my initial understanding of the system that the comedy venue will be using. As you can see here, it's mainly just about the system, and here you can see some of the things I've briefly detailed on some of the things it will need to deal with. The agency, for instance, they will have to deal with the availability of a comedian being able to book on a certain dates at a certain time. The cancellation, if for whatever reason a comedian has been double booked, we'll have to sort of have a system to be able to document that and see if other available comedians are available. And then there's also the possible age restrictions that some comedians may find are not suitable for a certain audience at a certain age. So that's another thing we need to take into consideration. Also, with my events, I've detailed that the attendance will be quite important to see which comedians have proven to be popular and will help boost the revenue of this comedy venue. So I believe attendance monitoring is very pivotal in choosing a comedian to come back after it's already been booked. Another thing they might want to consider is how to improve. If attendance is not quite meeting what they want, then they've got to improve from the feedback of the audience. Again, age restrictions is going to be a possible thing for events because we don't want certain families going to the wrong thing and finding it not quite to their thing. Customer booking. If you like to look over here, we've got telephone booking where the system will be required to sort of take information through the telephone booking, so we're going to need some sort of operator and system to sort of link the two and make sure the customer is able to book what he or she wishes. And then once that's done, we need to monitor the customer info, and once that's done, we're going to have to confirm, and also again with the agency booking, we're going to have to have a cancellation for the customer booking. This is to try and help update sales and tickets. If a customer can't make it and they wish to cancel, then we've got the opportunity then to try and resell them. And we've also got the statistics up here on the left to give back feedback and also attendance. Here's my initial systems diagram showing you the three entities that we used outside of the system's boundary, such as comedian, customer and feedback. Here the comedian will mainly, as you can see through the line, will be dealing with the agency. They will then be booking and holding the comedian info for the event. Over here, the customer will have the queries being dealt with by the operator by the telephone, and then those queries might be possibly about any age restrictions, booking details, availability, and what sort of events are on. And then the events will be able to monitor attendance and customer queries, customer questionnaires. This will help deal with the reports and feedbacks on which ones they liked, what was popular, and what they would like to see again. Here is the data flow diagram level 1. As you can see in the top left, we start with the agency inquiring about how to book a comedian. This information is being dragged from a database called event dates, which will help see which comedians have been booked already or which ones are available on a certain date the comedy venue wishes to have them for. Once a comedian has been booked, that information will have to be updated, and that will go down to the data flow through here onto the database level, database number 3, the comedian's availability. Once that's been inquired, the information will be fed through. Then once the agency has that information, it will then be able to send back a confirmation of the details and updating the availability through process number 2. Also, because of the age restrictions, we're going to need to know some sort of event information that the agency will hold about how certain comedians perform and what shows they have. This will come from the data flow database number 2 with the event information. That information will be dragged through, not only through the agency but also to the customer as well, to detailing them what comedians will be performing what and if it's appropriate or not. And as you can see down in the bottom left, this is how the agency will deal with cancelling the comedian. It will flow through to the event dates to update that and also update comedian availability, because once a certain venue has cancelled the comedian to perform for whatever reason, that information will now be fed back through and enable the agency to perhaps offer a rebooking or finding them another suitable venue for them to perform. Once that's done, the event dates will also update, meaning that the comedy venue will have to now find other alternatives to then update the events for them. Down in the bottom right is a similar sort of procedure showing you how customers will cancel their booking or give feedback. The cancel booking works in a similar way, but it's only working on the ticket sales database, which will just update and confirm whether or not customer has cancelled their booking or not, and that will be done through, as you can see, through the telephone. This is all based upon the operator receiving telephone calls from the customer. Up in the top right, we've got customer booking an event. First thing they will do is they will ask the information about the event. This event information will be fed through two databases of the event date and event information. Once information has been acquired, there will also be information fed through back to the customer, which the operator will then feed back through. If the customer is happy with what it's listening to, it can then book the events. This booked customer will update the ticket sales, enable the customer to be able to attend such event. Here we've got a data flow diagram level 2. This basically is just an expansion of how the customer will be dealing with the inquiry about the event. So we take one process from data flow level 1 and we expand it to show the more integral steps that happen and how they're all simultaneously being used in the one process. So if we begin, customer is give all information to client. This is being done through the check dates. The customer will request information such as check age. That will carry over the data. Again, we've got check price, which again will be fed back through to the database on event information, event dates, and event information. So this basically will just outline when the operator takes the phone call and it's being asked for information, the information that they'll take from the customer, and what information they'll be fed back through, all in this one process. So a customer will phone up, ask for the details. The operator may even ask for such information back as well. For instance, if he's asking to book, or he or she's booking for a certain event, they may ask their age to make sure it's appropriate and that they can book, and also they'll be able to check the availability and what dates are available to then process their order as they wish. This is my context diagram detailing the movements of information between agency and comedy centre. Here the agency gets a request from the comedy centre asking for a comedian's availability. Now once that's being done, the agency can then look at their sort of database that we're going to call comedian. They'll be able to request availability, book, confirm, and then update this availability to then make sure that no possible double bookings can exist and being booked for the comedian being booked for one show in 2 different venues. That's quite an important feature. Once the comedy centre has the confirmation booking, it can then start to do its own sort of things of getting confirmation from customers to book events, to hold event queries. When customers phone and ask for what shows are available, the comedy centre will already have the comedians there ready to be for tickets to be sold. Once they've done that, they can then formalise a report on customer satisfaction, attendance, and comedian satisfaction, because it also might be worth detailing that comedians may also would like to give information about how they performed at the venue and how they perceived it and whether it was a suitable or inadequate spacing. Here we've got our entity relationship diagram. Here it's just detailing the entities' relationship between one another. For instance, customer and customer booking will have a one-to-many relationship because there'll be one customer with many different relationships that book in for different events. So this is what this table here is detailing, is the different amounts of links that one particular entity may or may not have. For instance, comedian booking has 3 links, but as you can see, customer booking only has the 1. So it's just showing you which link, how each one is affected by the other, and what one entity may hold many information about the other entity. We can then expand this table to show it as in a diagram for a much more easier viewing. Here we have an entity relationship diagram, which is basically based upon the entity matrix diagram. Entity matrix table. Here we just got a more visualized representation of this data. As you can see, the agency has a weird drawn connector from the comedian, which we call crow's feet. This agency has only the 1, which means that there's one agency, to the crow's feet, which means many comedians. So we have a one-to-many relationship there. The agency will then have a one-to-many relationship, the comedian booking, which will link through to the events, which will help detailing their performances on what dates and times they'll be performing, because one comedian will maybe performing on more than one date and maybe more than one type of show. So that's why we have that link here. The customer, we will only have one customer booking for an event, but that doesn't mean to say that that customer may not be booking for many or multiple events. So that detailing that link there. So one customer may hold one booking, but that booking could be for X amount of dates or X amount of comedians. So that's why we have that relationship there. And once we've got the customer there at the event, we can then ask him for reports, and we can also do our own reports such as attendance monitoring, popularity and bestsellers. Once the customer has been to the event, we can then ask for feedback. We can do this by all sorts of ways. The comedy venue, like questionnaires, reports on their website, or even telephone calls. But once we get that, we can ask the customer to fill out and get our feedback ourselves, and then judge how successful that comedian has been. Here we've got the entity life history. This shows that once the customer has been added to our database, this shows the entity life history on the system. So first, when the customer comes to book an event, it inquires about the event, and then the customer is then added customer information to the system. That's number one. Then we can have the update contact information if the customer then wishes to move, change mobile phone number, change address. So we've got that there as well, detailing that we can actually update their information. We can change the number of people. So once they've booked an event, they may book for 4, but then they might wish for 5. And if that is available, if they do have an extra seat, then we have that option of changing number of people attending. And more importantly, of course, we've also got cancel booking if they then wish to cancel for whatever reason. And then we have the all-important archive after going to the event. This is important to help free memory up on the database so we can create new entities. But also, we don't want to lose this information, so we tend to archive it. If the customer wishes to rebook with us after a certain period of time, we will have their information and data already logged for them. So it helps with customer satisfaction when booking with us. Here we've got the entity life history, much similar to the customer one we've just seen, but this one is detailing how the comedian entity life history will be formatted onto our database. So we'll have the modify comedian option, we have the venue request comedian from agency, and the archive job is complete. So the agency gets required comedian, he is then booked. Then we can have change comedian if for any reason the cancellation has happened or a double booking has happened. If the dates are inadequate or the comedian wants to perform on other dates that we have available, then we can change the dates or the venue, or if it doesn't quite work out, we've also got the option of cancel comedian. Here we have our state transition diagram. Here is detailing on how this venue will be booking the comedian. It will start with a book comedian, it will inquire for its availability. If unavailable, it will try to book another comedian. So it's almost in a continuous loop until the comedians are found and they're appropriate with dates, times and fill-in of the comedy venue. Once that is then confirmed that they have some acts for us to be booked, we will confirm that booking. We confirm the dates, and then after that we can then finish, as the comedy venue will be fully booked with merchandise and events to sell. User case stories. This shows you that customer booking on how the operator will use the system. So when a customer calls the venue, the system will inquire about availability. Once it's done about the availability, it will try to book seats for the customer for them. Once that's done, the system will request customer info to be popped in by the operator. Once that's done, it will check for any age restrictions from the data that has been entered to make sure that they qualify to go through. The customer will give info. The system will then create a new customer added onto the database to help with the entity life history we've seen before, where the customer will now be added, and now it's been added, we can change, view and update information once it's been created. Once that's done, the system will display customer added. Once the customer has been added, we can then display the customer booking confirmed and let them know that they have successfully booked the event and also registered for us for any future purchases. Here is our use case diagram. Here you can see the agency booking a comedian, inquires for it, and this is basically showing you how each 3 entities outside of the system is operating onto it. So we have agency, we have the comedian, we've got the customer, and we've got the comedy venue, all working independently but simultaneously on the system. And this diagram here stipulates how each entity uses the system for their own personal use. So for instance, the agency will use it for obviously booking comedian. The comedian also uses it to check his availability to see what dates he'll be performing, and also update when he has been booked. The comedy venue will use it to create events, advertise events, and obviously create their own reports such as feedback. And obviously you've got there the most important one of all at the bottom, the customer, who obviously will come and book an event and generate the money if needed. Here we have a class diagram. This class diagram shows you that the entities, that the information that they hold and how they link to one another. Here, for instance, the customer will, when they create a customer, this is the information it will hold. It will format an ID to give that customer a unique code so we can identify when a customer has made a booking. And once we've done that, we have that unique number. We can check their full name, address, postcode, so we're able to pick out key information from the data with simple queries. So we can find information, and then you can see for customer ID it also appears in customer booking. That is known as a foreign key. So once we look at the booking for a customer, we can also check back to its original data of full name, address and postcode to simplify the data and make it easiest for us to access. Here is our robustness diagram. This shows you how the customer will use the facilities available. So for instance, the customer will hit a boundary of a website. This website would then help them to implement the booking venue, the details, and also it will help them enter their details, view and update it themselves through the website. This will show you how they can update their own entity life histories on the system by doing this. And once they've viewed or updated or committed a booking, we will be able to archive this and show a report. A similar thing goes for the agency. It shows you on how we can perform and put data onto our system, and how we can then view, update and maintain it, and how we can access this, and how they can keep booking comedians and updating and keep their system running smoothly.